on the live.
Yeah. Following. Seek the truth. Inner is free for some, not for you. Both and are gone, what did they do? Repackage the debt, derivative change, 98% lost to financial gain. Look it up yourself, don't take my word. Networks of finance loan transfer. Usury prohibited within their home. While your mortgage bleeds you to the bone. Be a currency, wait up there, central bank. The system said, Christian, call the sin, power jolly, can't forget. Financial collab, here's the proof. Second order derivatives climb while the dollar dies over time. These are facts.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, Danksters and Constitution upholders. It's your boy, Danks from Dankster Intel and
Project Constitution. Nice to see you guys.
Project Constitution. Welcome, bro. Good to have you and me together. We're cross-streaming on X, my YouTube, and your X, your YouTubes. I think you have like 2 YouTubes. Do you want to tell people what's going on with that, just so they know?
Yeah, so I have a new YouTube. So anybody who is watching on the old YouTube channel, which says Project Constitution Backup, I have a new YouTube. So go ahead and move over to the new YouTube. I'll drop the okay.
/ Project Constitution.
I got it right here. There you go. I just posted the link to the video, to the live stream on the new channel. So if you're watching on the old channel, go ahead and move over to the new channel because I'm about to end the live on the old channel. So if you want to watch, you're going to have to come over to the new channel.
Welcome, new member, Amy Girl. So we're going to show a couple of videos real quick. And this is going to be a pretty streamlined live stream. We're going to just show the information, present it, maybe go through a few questions, but also Candace, she didn't go live. So if she does today, we don't want to overstep. I know a lot of you watch her as well. So we're going to try to respect that time. But let me go ahead and drop this video real quick. We're going to watch 2 clips. And then from there, you'll see exactly what we are talking about afterwards. So this is regarding alleged information that we have found of Jake Hoffman, in our opinion, has committed PPP loan fraud. So we're going to show examples of what the news and press and Donald Trump himself has said about this. So let's go ahead and move on with this.
Will, could you talk about the student loan situation, please?
So later this afternoon, we're going to have prepared for your signature an executive order dealing with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. This is a program that's designed to expedite basically the conclusion of payments on student loans for people who have taken out.
This video, maybe I shouldn't play this one. This one does show that they're trying to forgive these types of loans. So that's for authentic, real loans. But the thing is, people are taking out loans in fraudulent ways, misrepresenting. And I think this video that Constitution, I should have reviewed it. I didn't. This one is going to be a little bit more clear and direct about SBA. So SBA, PPP, it all kind of falls together. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, the COVID loans that everybody was getting, the PPP Payment Protection Plan loans during COVID that everybody was getting, Trump decided he was going to do a massive crackdown on them when he started his second term. And this is kind of what we're going into here.
But we are tracking here the way that the Paycheck Protection Program, of course, the program set up to help small businesses that are struggling across the country with loans that convert into grants, so long as they keep employees on their payroll. That program has drawn new scrutiny from the Justice Department for the way that some people have applied for aid that may not have qualified, as well as some fraud alarm bells that are going off there. For more on that, I want to get to Yahoo Finance's Brian Chung, who has the details. Brian?
Zach, the Justice Department saying that it will look into possible fraud among businesses that are applying for those Paycheck Protection Program loans, which, as you mentioned, are supposed to be targeting those small businesses under 500 employees that really need help. But Bloomberg reporting that the DOJ is actually contacting 15 to 20 of the largest lenders under the PPP program to see if any of those borrowers actually misrepresented payroll costs or the number of employees or even the nature of their businesses when applying for these loans. Keep in mind that the PPP loans were contingent on, again, the company having less than 500 employees, having a need for that loan because of the COVID-19 related disruptions, and also that we're a certain type of business. If there are actually companies that define themselves as a NAICS code 72, which would be hospitality or accommodation, there was a possibility they could actually be exempt from that 500 employee threshold. So a lot of concern that a lot of companies, when they were applying for these PPP loans, may have misstated the actual number of employees that they had or the types of companies that they were. For what it's worth, this is not necessarily a new development that there would be this scrutiny. You had Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin earlier this week saying that he would be auditing any sort of loan that was originated that was larger than $2 million. Keep in mind that if you break down the SBA numbers, I believe we have a chart here, it shows that about 28% of the money, if you break it down as a percentage of the original $349 billion, that means about $95 billion were represented by loans that were larger than $2 million. So a lot of legwork for the Treasury to do as they review all of these loans and try to make sure that this taxpayer-funded money was really going to those businesses that needed it.
Yeah, we did hear from Secretary Mnuchin stress the fact that the criminal liability for anyone who filed that didn't need it or didn't qualify would be on those applicants themselves. So very clearly stressing kind of, I guess, the threat here that there is some real criminal problems that would be persecuted here. And we're hearing that from the Justice Department as well. Those threats are not empty. But on the front of the public companies that did receive this money, that was a lot of the outcry about this program, that a lot of the money we saw return from the likes of Shake Shack, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. When you think about some of these publicly traded companies that did receive PPP money only to turn around and give it back. And when you look at that, it seems like that was not just anomalies. There was actually a good amount of money from this program that still made its way to publicly traded companies.
Yeah, that is the case. And to what degree you want to argue that's legal or not legal is actually quite clearly defined in the CARES Act. So what I was just talking about is fraud from the perspective that it's a company literally misrepresenting to their lender what the status of their business is. Now, that would be prosecutable under the current law. But when you talk about those publicly traded companies, a lot of them actually were able to get a loan under the statutory obligations that were laid out by the CARES Act, which appropriated the original $349 billion and then the additional $310 billion as we began last week. Now, here's the question, is that should those companies have gotten it in the first place? Well, that's a more, I guess, high-level debate that the lawmakers should have had before they passed the CARES Act and before they passed that exemption that said, yeah, you could be a company that's got more than 500 employees as long as you're in accommodation and in food services. Now, again, that's how Shake Shack and Sweet Green, Potbelly, Ruth's Chris got that PPP loan, not because of a loophole. It was literally stated in the law that they could exempt that 500 employee threshold. So those companies mostly gave that money back as a matter of optics because they were either able to go into the public markets to get money anyway, or because they just didn't want to have that stigma attached to them as being that company that took that taxpayer money as opposed to all those other small businesses on Main Street that truly needed it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Brian Chung, bring us the latest.
So what we're going to discuss here, and I'm going to pull up information as we go along. So essentially, what we need to talk about is kind of why we're even discussing this, right? So what Project Constitution has received a tip on, I don't know if you want to maybe go into what you received, and then I can kind of cover that, and then what I look for after you gave me that information.
All right. So I received a tip from somebody, one of my researchers, a guy named Tony. Great guy. I'll make sure I tag him in the video afterwards. You guys go follow him. But what he showed us is that Jake Hoffman on the organization Rally Forge, the Rally Forge LLC he had, I believe that was with Bowyer too. I think he's an agent on that one. It's correct, right?
That is what I was trying to look for. I think Tyler Bowyer is on 110 LLC. I'm not sure, but
I think he got it backwards.
Maybe it's backwards. That's what I was looking at. So actually, that you mentioned that. So let me show you the audience what I did pull up. So I did pull up the entity information for Rally Forge LLC. It's active. It's in good standing, and right now it's on in Jake Hoffman's name. This address, 21401 East Russet Road, Queen Creek, which I believe is that same address as a UPS mailbox. So before we even get into the loan, really, this is the Arizona Corporate Commission. This is where every business in Arizona is required to register. And this is official state government records. And this is what comes up when I search Rally Forge. And of course, the name shows up as well. And then you can see May 19th was the formation date. And we're going to come back to that because it's about to matter a lot, really. But if you look at let me see, I think we have the statutory agent, in good standing, perpetual life. Let me see. Yeah, so Jake Hoffman, right? So that's the name listed. And the principal information manager, Jake Hoffman, member, Jake Hoffman. So let's be crystal clear that and establish this is Arizona State Records, managed by Jake Hoffman, LLC owned by Jake Hoffman, and he's been in control since May of 2016. So it's not speculation.
Gotcha.
Not rumor. This is AZ Corporate Commission records.
Yep. So we'll look into the Tyler Bowyer thing because I'm pretty sure he is an listed agent on there. But I'll check on that. So I'm not 100% sure on that. But regardless, I was sent a tip that Rally Forge LLC applied for PPP loans, and they misrepresented what their company. I mean, it not really allegedly because it's in black and white.
Yeah.
They misrepresented what their company does, and they also misrepresented their salary amount. So I'll let Danks go into a little bit more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me show you what we have here. And I'll go ahead and put the link from this in the chat. And then I think I'll go and post it on the studio so you guys can all see what we're really looking at and why this matters. So let me first pin it, but I did post in the link in all of our chats so you can see it. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin it, and then we're going to discuss exactly what is it that we're looking at. I know we did get a super chat. We're going to try to go through everything, but since I'm taking care of this really quickly, if you want to read the super chat, that'd be fine while I pin this.
Yep. Got a super chat here from Keats31, $5 Australian. Driving 1,300 kilometers, 800 miles for us here in the U.S. today. So you guys are along for the drive. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, glad to join you, and I'm glad you're joining us.
Thanks for the super chat. All right. So this is an official. Okay. So first of all, let's be straight here. This is from ProPublica. I do have a lot of information and documents and stuff that I will do my best to bring out the full primary evidence. But right now, ProPublica is what I've got. but ProPublica does pull from legitimate IRS government documents. Okay, so this is the official PPP loan record for Rally Forge LLC, and the data comes directly from Small Business Administration. So that's what SBA stands for. You've heard that, right? So this comes from the SBA, the administration, through Freedom of Information Act releases. And ProPublica, they did not create this data. They just made it searchable. So this is the same information that the government, the federal government has. So this is your foundation, really. This proves that Rally Forge received, and it's a loan, okay? They received a loan through taxpayer money, and the loan being approved for motor vehicle supplies and new parts merchant wholesalers. All right. So
say what?
This is,
That doesn't sound like what Hoffman's Rally Forge did. Does it to you?
no, it does not.
Oh.
Again, I don't know why they would put it there. Motor vehicle supplies, you know, look, this is an industry classification. Okay. The industry class, I have no idea why you would put your industry classification, but it says motor vehicle supplies and new parts merchant wholesaler. So unless he's got some wholesaler for auto parts warehouse business, which Rally Forge was not that, to my understanding. It has been a media company, troll farm, that was banned from Facebook. Whether or not they were on the up and up doesn't, you know, that's not what I'm pointing out here. But what I am saying is that they haven't been diving into motor vehicle supplies and new parts merchant wholesaling. This is another thing here. So I'm going to zoom in even more. So the loan amount is for $17,738. What's interesting is taxpayers, you and I, has forgiven that loan for an additional $198, includes any accrued interest. So what this is stating is that they took a loan for $17,738 on May 1st, 2020. The amount was forgiven by taxpayers. Now, what's interesting is that this loan said, when the applicants said the money will go, $17,738 straight to payroll, 0 utilities, 0 mortgage interest, 0 healthcare, 0 rent, like refinance EIDL, and 0 debt interest. So this is something that has raised significant red flags. It says business age, new business, or 2 years or less. If that's the case, Rally Forge has been around since 2016. Okay. So unless there's some other Rally Forge LLC entity that is at the very same location, that is doing something else that we don't know about, what does this mean? Right now, on the screen, you're seeing where all of this could fall apart, right? Like legally. This is the expense breakdown and on that I just showed, all right? But then you're seeing the actual entity information. So are they lying? I want to know, are they lying about the 2 years or less? Because in order to, you know, this is legal documentation, okay? This has to be.
And by the way, let me just say one thing. It also matters. Like when they put in how long the business has been around, when they put in what the business does, like their motor vehicle wholesale thing, that actually matters, because that is what determines how much their loan amount and if they're even eligible. As we'll get into that, I'm sure, a little bit later. But that's why this is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is 100% breaking news. So like, subscribe, follow if you haven't already, and share this. We're going to also clip this out, but since we got this information, we wanted to make it known as soon as possible, so that not only us, but everybody else in the general public that does see this video live stream can also do their own research, because there's a lot more down the rabbit hole that we're going to end up going independently and also together again. Now, we have established that Rally Forge told the SBA, all right, that they were in the business of motor vehicle supplies and new parts merchant wholesaling. The NAICS code 423120, I think it was, I read somewhere. Essentially, in this case, when you're talking about wholesaling, warehouse, actual requirements to operate, you need a building, you need somewhere to store the inventory. Auto parts are physical objects, brake pads, alternators, transmissions, oil filters. These things take up space. You need shelving, you need square footage. That means that you're either paying rent on a warehouse or you own the building and have mortgage payments. But Zach has shown up to the address, and it doesn't show the exact address here, but and that's the thing is in order to get the full information, I would need to do a FOIA request, I'm pretty sure. If we were to pull up the data sets for PPP FOIA, the information is here. So I'm going to put it in the comment box. If anybody decides they want to do that, we will probably do that as well. But I think it's important to note, we can go back to the U.S. Small Business. So this is the home of the U.S. Small Business Administration Open Data. Here you will find data reports and other tools across SBA. So this is a government organization that they had received a loan from and then forgiven for something that I can't find any truth thereof. I haven't seen any Rally Forge LLC selling motor parts. So on that front, what do you have to say about that, first of all?
I think that it's very telling that Hoffman would do something like this. I just say that, because we already know his other things are pretty shady. So, and during that time, you got to remember, during that time, there were a lot of people doing this too. They were like they were looking at it as like free money, but they didn't think there'd be consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, what it looks like is that they took out a loan. I mean, I have more information that I kind of want to go over regarding all of this stuff here. So let me pull up what I have here that I've kind of typed up together. Let me see. So right here. And what's important to know is that if you got to remember, you're taking a loan 100% for payroll. To me, what this looks like is that you're literally just taking a loan for some extra cash. I'm just saying that's what it looks like to me. I don't know what it means legally, but when Jake Hoffman signed the PPP application, he certified under penalty of perjury that the information was accurate. He said Rally Forge was an auto parts wholesaler, but the expense breakdown proves that that's impossible. How do you have an auto parts wholesaler with no utilities, no mortgage, no healthcare, rent, like no debt, and nothing? Just payroll. So you can't claim that and then report zero facility costs. Those two things cannot be true. That's not a mistake, right? This is what prosecutors would call a material false statement. And the industry classification, what it appears to be, is false, unless there's a company that we don't know about or there's a part of Rally Forge LLC doing business that we don't know about. So that's not a mistake. It's not a typo. In my opinion, that is fraud. Okay? So this is something that I think we are going to be like looking into much deeper, but 100% payroll, 0% to everything else, that really doesn't sit right with me, or I don't think it should sit right with pretty much anybody looking into this information. And why it should matter is because let's take you back to 2020 for a minute, right? When COVID hits, the government shuts everything down. All right. We experienced that across the world. Businesses are closing. People are losing their jobs. People are dying. They can't see their family, and it's complete chaos. So Congress created this paycheck protection program, and the idea was actually pretty simple, right? It was to give businesses free money to keep their employees on payroll during the shutdown. If you needed to use the money for payroll, rents, utilities, you didn't have to pay it back. Really, the loan was supposed to be forgiven, and it appears that it had been. But here's the thing, though, is that this isn't just the government's money. Who gives the government money? This is our money. This is your money, right? Taxpayer money. 800 billion of it, to be more accurate about that. So that's a billion, with a B, not 800 million. That's close to $1 trillion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire annual budget of the Department of Defense. All right. They built this program on trust. You fill out an application, you certify that everything is true, and the government will trust you. But there wasn't time for extensive verification. COVID was spreading, businesses were dying, and they tried to move fast. And that trust was abused, in my opinion, on a massive scale. The DOJ had estimated something like $100 billion in PPP loans were fraudulent.
Massive fraud. And that's one of the things is Trump, when he got in the second term of office, that's one of his things that he wanted to do was crack down hard on it. And Kelly Loeffler, she come out hard saying that they're going to prosecute to the fullest extent of law anybody that they find that filed fraudulent PPP loan applications. And especially like material misrepresented what they're putting on, when they applied. And like Jake Hoffman here, it sure looks like that's what he did to me.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at this video just to give you an idea. So this was 5 years ago, in the thick of it, right after COVID started to, beginning of 2021.
The PPP program is no longer accepting applications, but tonight, another lesser-known SBA program is still open with billions to award. In a KPI X5 original report, our Kenny Choi discovers the fraudsters are applying in droves.
We've learned cyber criminals are stealing hundreds
The mask, bro.
of millions of taxpayer dollars meant for small businesses. The crime spree is also leaving millions of Americans struggling to deal with identity theft.
First of all, it's just a shock.
That was Craig Franklin's first reaction when he received a pack of letters in the mail from the unemployment office in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
I haven't been to New Mexico since 1963, so I sent back immediately a fax saying, this is fraud, do not process.
Then he went to check his credit report and got more disturbing news.
I had applied for a small business loan for $5,000 to open up my own deli in Texas. I can barely make peanut butter sandwiches, let alone open a deli.
He says the Small Business Administration was not surprised to hear from him.
For the last 2 months, she says, we've been just day and night working on fraud cases.
And this falls right into this comment right here from Missy Maya. We own a business and applied for the COVID loan and was denied. And think about that. The people that really needed it getting denied when people are lying, allegedly lying. It looks blatant, but I'm trying to protect myself. That people that needed it, how many times and how many different programs do we have to experience people getting turned down for food stamps, for loans, for things that they need, that we are all paying into just for nonprofits or for-profit LLCs that maybe have an inside touch to the whoever's more important than us to get access to this information. It's out of control, and this needs to stop. It's unfortunate that this has gone unchecked for so long, but it's time to start checking every single one of these programs. Barron yesterday on his live stream was pointing out to one specific person, which I will be making a video about, that threatened Charlie Kirk, talking about all this and that and God and whatever. Well, guess what? This lady, in my opinion, is also doing massive amounts of nonprofit fraudulent activity, giving herself so much money. If you go look on my X page, you could see my most recent thread that's posted that shows Lori Cordova and her company PGNT with all kinds of fraudulent activity. And I've just started with a thread. And it's just ridiculous because that nonprofit money is subsidized by American taxpayers. So what are they doing? Just living the high life, going and playing around on their private jets and having fancy dinners, meeting people at the wherever, White House and Congress, and going and getting inside information and just living off of our dime. And not to mention all these other countries doing the same bull crap.
Oh, exactly. It disgusts me, man. It absolutely disgusts me.
Yeah, this is
a huge increase.
Shamika Walker is an attorney with the Federal Trade Commission.
It can can take years to untangle yourself from identity theft. That's not your own doing. You have to go through all of these different steps to try to, recover.
Nationwide, the FTC has received close to 224,000 complaints relating to COVID-19 and stimulus fraud, peaking to 1,990 in a single day in May.
Those complaints have mentioned words like stimulus, pandemic. That's why we think that this is all related.
The fraudsters applying for a loan in Craig's name were trying to steal from an SBA program similar to the Paycheck Protection Program.
And we're not saying that he's doing it in anybody else's name, but this just goes to show you how wide the fraudulent activity was at this time. People using other people's names to file for additional loans to, which then that same person goes to file for something and they can't because, oh, you had already taken out a loan. Do you know what it takes to untangle a loan that was taken out in your Social Security or your EIN number? It is a mess. It's a mess. So,
oh, absolutely. I had somebody file unemployment actually on me 1 year during COVID or whatever fraudulently. And that cost me to this day. I still have problems.
Yeah, my wife, she had somebody take out all kinds of stuff, and she's still dealing. This is years in the making. She's still dealing with Best Buy credit card, Home Depot, all this mess that was taken out in her name. And it's almost like they don't even, it's just so ridiculous, like how the banks, they don't want to do anything about it because they gave the money, and then it's just this big mess. It feels like they don't want to untangle the web. But I do want to explain how the PPP loan works and the essential context. Really, when you applied for a PPP loan, you have to provide certain information. The government needs to know who you are, what kind of business you run, how much you paid your employees. And when the loan amount was calculated using a very simple formula, you took your average monthly payroll and you multiplied it by 2.5. All right. So if you paid your employees $10,000 per month on average, you could borrow $25,000. So the idea was that 2.5 months of payroll would get you through the shutdown. Now, where it gets important is when you fill out that application, you have to select an industry classification. Every business in America has something called an NAICS code, and that stands for North American Industry Classification System. And it's how the government categorizes businesses. A restaurant has a different code than a warehouse, as a consulting firm has a different code than a manufacturer. That matters because different industries have different overhead requirements. And if you say you're a wholesale warehouse, just like Forge LLC has in this very same document, if I go back, you can see here, again, industry, motor vehicles, Forge, okay? And that'll give you some context as I'm walking you through this. If you are classifying under a different industry that you're receiving the loan under and it's actually not, remember, this is under penalty of perjury. So these are your classifications that need to be accurate. So the part that people don't understand is that when you sign that PPP application, you weren't just filling out paperwork. You're making a legal certification, like hand on the Bible in the court level of admittance. And that's what the application is saying. And I'm paraphrasing here, but you have to understand that making a false statement to obtain guaranteed loan from the SBA is punishable under federal law.
It's a felony, actually. There are actual felonies that Hoffman, could be prosecuted under for this and should be. In my opinion, he's not above the law. And by the way, before we get into that part, though, wasn't there something about the payroll amount too? Didn't the payroll amount not match what was on the 990s or something like that?
Yeah, I have to look through here, and I have so much stuff, and we kind of just wanted to come out and talk about it. But let me pull it up.
Because I know the payroll was definitely a big deal. When we were talking about it last night, the payroll was another thing that was a big deal. And I think it didn't. I think it was either the payroll or the amount of employees. But one of the things was different. Well, it did not match the actual 990s.
Yeah, so we could actually. Yeah, the thing is, because they're a for-profit entity, we don't have access to their IRS documentation. But what I have here is that Forge told the government Here, let me just copy this over here so I can just read it in my documents here. DocX new right here. So essentially, Rally Forge told the government that they needed $17,738 to pay one employee, which, remember how it is, because they're paying 2.5 months worth, right? However the numbers work out, it shows $85,000 a year at their auto parts warehouse. But the problem is that they have no warehouse, they have zero rent, they have zero utilities. It's just a virtual office mailbox, or just an office UPS mailbox. The same one, what is it, 105 to 301 or whatever it was, something like that. The same one that Zach from Wolves Minutes showed. So
exactly,
again, 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. Rally Forge got $17,738, which means they claimed $7,095 in monthly payroll. And that's $85,142 per year for one employee. Now ask yourself, what kind of new auto parts wholesale business pays one employee $85,000 a year while spending zero on rent, zero on utilities? Where is this warehouse and where does this employee work? The address
absolutely
is 18521 East Queen Creek Road, Suite 105 to 503. That tells you everything. It tells you everything. It's a mailbox service. You can't run a wholesale auto parts warehouse from a mailbox. The exact same address is also the same one for the political firm or political adjacent firm 110 LLC, the same address that received over $2 million from Turning Point PAC, or however many, $7 million in both Turning Point USA, Turning Point PAC, the same suite, different claimed businesses. One says they're selling auto parts. The other one is doing political consulting. So the crime here that I'm alleging, that we are alleging, is that Rally Forge signed this PPP application under penalty of perjury. They certified that the information was true and accurate. They knew that they were making false statements to obtain a federally insured loan to be forgiven. And this is a federal felony. It's punishable by up to 30 years in prison for one action and $1 million in fines.
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think he should be prosecuted for it. And we're going to refer this information to the DOJ, and hopefully they'll do something about it. But we'll see.
Well, that's honestly a concern, because Trump has forgiven him, and for this other stuff. And
yeah, exactly. I'm not holding my breath on him actually being charged, but he should be, because what we found is very damning.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a suite number like 105 to 103 or 105 to 503, that's the telltale signature. And I might sound like I'm repeating myself and harping over this, but the first number, 105, is typically the actual suite number of the mailbox company's physical location. The second number, 503, is the individual mailbox number assigned to the customer. So these services exist for legitimate purposes. Small businesses use them for privacy. Remote workers use them for a professional address. That's fine. But when Rally Forge LLC signed and claimed to be an auto parts wholesaler under this tax code from NAICS code 423120, and I'll put it in the I'll put that specific tax code and where I got that in the chat here, so you can look it up yourself. That code literally is stating that specific industry, okay? That industry is stating specifically motor vehicle supplies and new parts merchant wholesalers. And when you do that, the official description of this industry includes businesses of wholesale. So new motor vehicle parts, new motor vehicle accessories, new motor vehicle tires and tubes, and service station equipment. This is not a consulting business industry classification. This is not a digital, I mean, that's what they're classifying it as, but the business that we know about is not that. This is a digital service that they've been implementing since Rally Forge's existence. And not only that, you've got it stating that it's 2 years or less as the business age. It's like, how, like, I don't know if that's, you know, this
which
is also
that also affects their eligibility as well. So by lying on their eligibility, by saying they're 2 years or newer business, that would you know, that goes towards their eligibility as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm gonna look up here.
And Hoffman, like, you know, Rally Forge was a digital business. Okay, they did, you know, bot farming, they did online marketing and stuff allegedly. So Hoffman didn't even need a PPP loan. Why was he even trying to get one? He didn't have employees that needed to go to an office. They all worked from home. They all remote worked. It's online. Everything that business did was online.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at this new business or 2 years or less, okay, this detail is critical. All right. What you need to understand is that when PPP launched, the SBA had to figure out how to verify that businesses were telling the truth about their payroll. For established businesses with 2 or more years of operating history, verification is pretty straightforward. So the lender could request IRS Form 941s, which are quarterly payroll taxes returns, IRS Form 940s, which is an annual unemployment tax, multiple years of bank statements showing consistent payroll deposits, state unemployment insurance, and so on, W-2s, W-3s from prior years. So these documents create a paper trail. And if you claim you have one employee making $85K a year, the government can cross-reference that against years of tax filings. The numbers either match or they don't. It's very clear. That's black and white. So what happens when a business is brand new? For the business operating less than 2 years, especially those formed in 2019 and early in 2020, the verification landscape has changed dramatically. So a new business might legitimately have no filing annual tax returns yet if formed late in 2019. So their first return might not even be due. Only a few months of payroll records, limited banking history, or no historical baseline to compare against. So the SBA will recognize this reality and adjust requirements accordingly. New businesses could use a shorter time period to calculate their average monthly payroll. So some could use just January and February of 2020 as their baseline, or whatever months they had been operating. Here's where the problem emerges, though, is that less history means less verification. So this, to me, seems intentional. Less verification means more opportunity for fraud. That's a fact. All right. And I'm not Governor Newsom. What did they say? I saw a video. I think somebody, maybe it was, I forgot, but they were talking about how Governor Newsom, when he says a lie, he says, and that's a fact after. Well, when I say it, it's a fact. Okay. I mean that. If Rally Forge LLC designated themselves as a new business or 2 years under older, several things become significant. The first thing is a timing question. When exactly was Rally Forge LLC formed? Well, it was formed in 2016. So as the date per this loan, okay, date approved. So search for every company approved for federal loans. It's literally stating the loan was approved May 1st, 2020. It doesn't say that the loan was forgiven in 2020. Because think about it. How can the loan be like approved and forgiven? Well, you're going to do that in the same month. I don't know how that works, which maybe some more information needs to be discussed. If they filed it in 2018, that doesn't make sense because COVID hadn't been here in 2018 yet. So I can tie you up in a knot any which way you want to go. If you like to look like a pretzel, then I can make you look like a pretzel with a balloon like a clown. But the fact remains that it was 2016 that Rally Forge was created. And in 2020, and that's a fact. And this is where I can't say that's a fact for sure, but it appears to me to be a fact that in 2020, it was approved for the loan, not forgiven, because it would say loan forgiven approval date, right?
No,
so,
it was 100% approved. I could say for a fact it was 100% approved in 2020 because the PPP loans, they did not even come out. They were not authorized by Congress until I believe it was the CARES Act, which was 2020. when they did the big, huge omnibus bill for COVID, that's when they added the loans to it and it was approved. So it couldn't have been approved earlier than that. I mean, it could not approved. It couldn't have been approved earlier than that, not forgiven.
I mean, we can even look and say, like, when the first COVID happened at the end of 2019, rolling into 2020, and then this loan was taken out May 1st. Man, they didn't even skip a beat, bro. By the time all of us were suffering was like late into 2020, like businesses were falling apart. It's almost like they were ready. They were ready for this. Like,
oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, is all these companies, whether it was only meant for companies like small businesses that really needed the money, that were shut down, but everybody was taking advantage of it. These big public traded companies were taking advantage of it. You got, fraudsters like Hoffman taking advantage of it. All these people that didn't need it were abusing the system. And on top of that, then you have things like, where they obtained it, allegedly fraudulently here, what looks to be fraudulently.
Yeah, that's what appears to me. And then again, the wholesale auto parts stuff. And then you also have a plausibility problem where, think about what it takes to start a legitimate wholesale auto parts business. You need capital for inventory. You need supplier relationships. You need warehouse space, like I've said. You need customers lined up to pay somebody $85K a year with no other payments. Does this make sense to you? You need customers. You need logistics figured out. It takes time to build. It doesn't make sense that a brand new auto parts wholesale company within 2 years is operating at this pace with no overhead, paying one person. Look, let me tell you this. I have a family member. My uncle owns a junkyard in Ohio. Okay. It's funny. Everything is in Ohio, right? My uncle owns a junkyard in Ohio. He owns the largest junkyard in Ohio. I'm not going to say where, but he has a monopoly on the junkyards in a certain city in Ohio. And he has 5 people. And granted, it's a larger auto parts wholesaler, and that's essentially what that is, right? When we think about motor vehicle supplies and new parts merchant wholesaler, you're probably looking at somebody or a company that's a middleman between junkyards or automotive vehicles. See, I also have taken partnership in a mechanic company. So I've dealt with vehicle supply companies, merchants of new and used parts. Think about like O'Reilly's or AutoZone or Pep Boys. You're looking at these types, right? But then wholesalers sell parts to those companies, whether new, used. If you're a mechanic, you're buying from retailers who get their parts from wholesalers. So this doesn't make sense. And to me, it's a shell company pattern. That's what this is what fraud cases involving new businesses investigators would look for. Formation date relative to the PPP. Was the company formed suspiciously close to when PPP was announced? Like, the thing is, they're just lying on here if it's new business or 2 years or less. Companies and nonprofit organizations that receive PPP loans may have the loans forgiven if they meet certain criteria, including not laying off employees during the defined period covered by the loan. Applicants must attest in their application that the loans are necessary for continuation of their operation. Note, this data reflects loan applications approved by banks and submitted to the SBA. It may not account for money not distributed to or credited to use by or given company. Let me see what this takes us to.
And if he's claiming, another thing is if he's claiming one employee, I mean, like I said, it's basically a shell company anyway. So if he's claiming one employee, that's him. So what you like, he wouldn't lay himself off anyway. That makes no sense. So I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah, I have more information here. Let me see. Yeah, false reporting, this and that. Explain this. So yeah, once we start getting into the nooks and crannies of all of this, to me, it's like, how many different ways can you come to the government with your hand out and then have the United States taxpayer subsidize that with our money. Dude, like every time we go anywhere, our money is being taxed over and over. The same dollar is infinitely taxed. It's just, it's ridiculous. Like the only way that it doesn't get taxed is if you somehow find a way to get it into a casino and then get it back out. You know what I mean? Like that is the only way. I don't know any other, I'm sure there's other ways, but when we're talking now about the basic facts from public records, all right, Rally Forge applied for and received for a PPP loan with those characteristics. The loan amount of $17,738, forgiven with $198 accrued interest, which is normal. The date was approved May 1st of 2020. Job reported classification, motor vehicle supplies, and new parts merchant wholesaler. The business age is reportedly 2 years or less or new. 100% of the payroll, meaning they reported 0 for utilities, 0 for rent, 0 for mortgage interest. This is a first round PPP loan, which is significant. First round loans went out fast in April and May of 2020. The government rushed to get money out the door for, I guess, apparently certain companies, because how many businesses did we see apply and fail and then close their doors? I heard some amazing businesses have to go through this. And when you classify falsely, it's not just a paperwork technicality, it is fraud, all right? It's more fraud, alleged fraud, that I am sitting here screaming at the top of my lungs. And I don't know how to get through. If we can't do anything, where does this stop? When do we make this stop? That's my question, bro. How do we make this stop, bro? And what do we got to do to get it to what do we got to do, man?
Well, you know, like Hoffman and Bowyer were already pardoned by Trump, and for fraud, actually, in Arizona. So I would like to know what the quid pro quo was on that, what they had to do or what they had to give or offer in order to get that pardon, because we know, he didn't do that for free. There's no way.
Yeah.
And secondly, if he's going to do that, then he's probably not even going to look, just like with Turning Point, with them, fabricating the IRS letters, to clear Turning Point, which is completely bogus. There's no, like, that makes no sense. We talked about that in the last video, but that makes no sense. That letter was completely collusion with Trump administration and Turning Point to fabricate that, to try to cover their ass. But so if they're in bed that far with TPUSA and with these people, then I don't see the Trump administration or the FBI or the IRS. I don't see any of these people actually doing their job and prosecuting him. So I really don't know what to do as far as accountability, but we do need accountability. And the only thing I could say is, all we can do is highlight it. We can put it out there. We can show everybody, hand them their case on a silver platter for the people to see it. And if these people don't prosecute, if they don't do their job, then they're corrupt, and the people got to replace them. The people got to speak out in the elections, and we got to get rid of these people and put in clean house and put in a whole new bunch of people that will do the right thing.
I pulled up this video. It's got 5,700 views from a small YouTuber back in March of 2022. So probably after all this went through. And the description says, in this PPP loan fraud video, we discussed some important topics. Thousands of people were approved for PPP loans during the pandemic, and the federal government is focusing their efforts on people they think broke the law. They may come after you unfairly. I guess we'll see what he says. But the thing is, if they're coming after people unfairly, then how come they're not going after people fairly? Are they just picking and choosing? That's bothersome.
Justin Isley, welcome to The Lawyer on YouTube. Today we're going to be discussing PPP loan fraud. What is PPP loan fraud? How can it affect you? Obviously you found this video because you're curious about it. You may have someone that's charged with it, or you're worried that you may be investigated for it. So let's talk about 5 things you should know if you're facing PPP loan fraud charges or an investigation. None of this is legal advice. What was the PPP loan program? As we all know, the PPP loan program was enacted to help small businesses get through the pandemic who were suffering greatly from a lack of business because no one was going anywhere, no one was doing anything, and many businesses had a hard time staying afloat. The federal government, through the Small Business Administration and banks, gave out millions and millions and millions of dollars to small businesses. And what they did is they based the loan amount on previous income that the business had generated, used a multiplier to produce a number that was then given to them as a loan. Generally, these loans were forgivable. You just had to follow the rules. And so it was a great program that actually kept many small businesses afloat during a pretty terrible pandemic, which thankfully it looks like we're starting to come out of. Now that you know about the PPP loan program, you need to know what could be going wrong if you're being under investigation or you're facing charges. So let's start with our second point. PPP loan fraud can be prosecuted under numerous federal laws. There is a federal crime for bank fraud. There is a federal crime for loan fraud.
That's a good point, because yesterday when we were talking about it, it was saying that wire fraud, bank fraud could be, there's like three major charges.
There were multiple charges that they could be charged with, and some of them were felonies.
Yeah, no, I think all of them are felonies. Here, let's take a look at what he said.
There's a federal crime for wire fraud. There's a federal crime for mail fraud. There are federal crimes for computer fraud. The moral of the story is, when it comes to PPP loan fraud, the federal prosecutors have plenty of ways to prosecute you. And so if they find out that you did something illegal, there will be no problem in them prosecuting your case. Our third point on PPP loan fraud is that there are multiple ways that people have been caught and even have already been convicted of committing PPP loan fraud.
Look, 2 Florida residents sentenced to prison for COVID-19 relief fraud. A Florida woman was sentenced today for 44 months in prison for defrauding the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, of more than $3.3 million in loans. Granted, this is a larger scale, but the Small Business Administration under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act. According to court documents and evidence presented at trial, this person, 32 of Pembroke Pines, wow, I used to live close to that area, obtained a PPP loan of $84,515 for a company, I Am Liquid Inc. I Am Liquid. Of course you are, if you're getting money from the government for free and getting it approved for freaking
for real.
Bro, that story last night, I feel like we should just read that story sometime. Based on false, it made me laugh so hard, bro. There's this story, well, we'll talk about it later. Based on false information about the company's number of employees and average payroll, and on false reporting tax and bank statements, Bostic paid more than $21,000 to a co-conspirator named James Stote as a kickback for his assistance in preparing and submitting the fraudulent loan application. The evidence showed that Bostic, in exchange for kickbacks, referred 2 other conspirators to the scheme, and Stote submitted fraudulent PPP loan applications on their behalf. Those loan applicants sought more than $3.3 million in fraudulent PPP loans and obtained nearly $2 million in loan proceedings.
Obvious way this happens is when they ask for your income amount, that you give a fraudulent number. Unfortunately, there are many cases that have been reported where people gave fraudulent income for previous years and quarters. And because that is the basis for which they got the loan, people were unfairly enriched and given money that they didn't deserve under the loan program. And people are already serving prison terms for such fraud. Other ways that you can commit the loan fraud is to create documents out of thin air or make up businesses that really didn't exist. What the government has shown is that because there was so much money available, people were making up businesses that really didn't exist before the PPP loan program came into being. And so people wanted in on that quick, fast money. They pretended like they had a business that had been in existence and that was suffering when really there wasn't any employees.
Let's take a look at this. So if Rally Forge, okay, what year is this? Let me just verify. 2020, 2019. Let me pull open. Hold on.
Number 4 on our list is of things that you should remember about PPP loan fraud is this is a federal crime. My partner and I have been practicing federal criminal defense for decades. We have handled hundreds and hundreds of federal criminal cases. And what you need to know is there is no parole in the federal system. If you are sentenced to prison, you will go to prison and there is no parole officer for you. The fifth and final thing you need to know about PPP loan fraud is that the President of the United States, President Biden, in his State of the Union address just yesterday on the 1st of March 2022, said that his federal prosecutors are making it a #1 priority to prosecute PPP loan fraud. In fact, he has appointed a czar, a guru, a task force leader simply for the purpose of prosecuting PPP loan fraud.
Okay, perfect. So let's go and look back at a couple of these documents here. All right, we're going to pull open one. This is 2021. This is Turning Point. Let's look at this one here, 2020. So we're going to look at a couple of things that I want to note, first of all. So this is 2017. Let me pull up the following year, 2019, I think, if I can, 2018. So this is filing year 2018, okay? If we come down here, this is right before, if you look at who was on the company, yeah, Charles Kirk, Tyler Bowyer, Scott Studebaker, Tom Sedeka. At this year, all right, Turning Point Action, this is Turning Point Action, they only paid Olympic Media LLC, all right? So we're going to start with Turning Point Action first, all right? Turning Point Action. That's 2019 filing year for the year of 2018. If we move forward to the year that they applied for this loan, which is 2020 was the filing year, 2019 is the reporting year. So remember, they're filing a loan for Rally Forge LLC in the year of 2020. Okay, watch this. Rally Forge in 2019. Remember, this is filing for 2020. Just the same year they reported, okay, Rally Forge LLC was compensated $1.8 million. Do you understand? Rally Forge, the same year that they filed for the loan, the year before, they made $1.8 million right here. Rally Forge LLC, Queen Creek, Arizona. All right. Rally Forge LLC, Queen Creek, Arizona, 21401. All right. 21401 right here. All right. And then on the documentation, if I go back one, oh no, I have to put it in here. Let me see. Rally Forge LLC. Here we go. It's a CAPTCHA. So then that same year, May of 2020, they're asking, because they're literally having to state how much their company is bringing in revenue and all of that stuff. They're stating that their company is bringing $85K. How does this add up in math when you have on a tax form paid out by Turning Point Action $1.8 million? This is what I really want to show. It's blatantly,
absolutely,
it's blatant fraud. Okay, so now does this make sense? This is just one form, bro.
And there's so much more. If we're going to dig deeper into this, and we'll post anything we find for sure. But this is just scratching the surface. But we have enough information here for them to easily build a case for fraud. For PPP fraud for Jake Hoffman. Multiple counts of felonies, multiple felonies, not multiple counts, but multiple felony charges.
So I think that should say all that we need to say, right?
Yep.
I think that this right here is the most damning evidence. $1.8 million in compensation directly from Turning Point Action as an independent contractor. And that very same year, they applied for a loan. Why are they applying for a loan when they just made $1.8 million from one company? Why? Why are you taking that money from Americans that need it? That's all I really have to say on that. So I'm disappointed.
It just shows you what kind of character these people are and just what kind of snakes they are.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. That's why you do it. We want to expose these people.
Yeah, man. And
I'm tired
whether,
of them grifting on all the good people out there and scamming and conniving, and it's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's completely unchristian-like. It's un-American, and it's wrong.
yeah, I mean, it's right here. I can just flip back and forth over and over again. 1.8 million in the very same year that they filed, 2020, and the year before, they literally are filing right then after making $1.8 million for a loan to get forgiven. They're just literally taking free money from the American people. That's what I think is happening. So, oh yeah, there we go. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm sorry at the same time. And yeah, I don't know what else to do, what else to say about that. But yeah, I guess that's it for now. More will come of it. Yeah.
We're going to report that to the DOJ, and you guys, we encourage you guys to report it as well. Do you have an address for who they got to report it to by any chance, or no?
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, I do. So report PPP fraud right here. So there's an email, there's a hotline, and then an online form. I can copy this whole thing, I think. Let's see if that goes in there. So I just put it in the chat. Did that take the whole thing? Here, I'll put it in pieces. Department of Justice PPP Fraud Tax Force. Let's post that. The IRS whistleblower 15 to 30% reward. We're gonna file that, but I'll put it out there just in case. And then FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center is there.
Yep, that's it right there. Department of Justice PPP Fraud Task Force. Email criminal.fraud@usdog.gov. So go ahead and file your complaints on them, because that's well, we're not telling you to do anything, but if you feel this is wrong, if you feel there's fraudulent activity here, you are more than well within your right to certainly file a complaint against this company.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and close out from here. I appreciate everyone tuning in. We just needed to break this and let y'all know that no matter, like I said in my previous live streams, no matter how hard they try, no matter what they say, it's only going to get worse for them and the people around them. All right. They'd never met a son of a bitch like me. I'll tell you that. And once I saw what was actually going on, I had to get involved. And it's not, I have no upside to this. You know what I mean? I have every other reason not to do it. But as an American, as somebody who has struggled also myself to get loans, business loans, my wife has dealt with fraud and other things that people have taken money from her. It's just not right. And I'm not going to sit around anymore and just let this go and go and go with nonprofits taking and taking and taking. Everywhere you look now, and that I've been looking at it, there's nonprofits everywhere for everything. Your dog's got a nonprofit. Your parents' grandparents' cat's got a nonprofit. Dude, did you see what they just hosted at the White House? White House nonprofit dogs. It wasn't at the White House. It was at dogs event, Mar-a-Lago, in the news recently. Let me see if I can pull it up. 2 weeks ago. Oh my gosh, bro. Look at this. Here, hold on. I'm going to pull it up on YouTube before we close this out. This is, I think, yeah, here, let's see. We can show some of this here. Let me. Another, here, it says right here. Really American host Stephen Harness breaks down Mar-a-Lago hosts a strange furry masquerade party. And this was in the name of some nonprofit. Oh, it's for veterans. And here, let's see what he says here.
Sorry, what are you playing for me right now? That looked like some sort of weird cult party at Mar-a-Lago, but I did not sleep very well last night. What? That's not what it was, right? Wait, what? I'm being told that's exactly what that was? Apparently, our president, in between invading Venezuela, threatening Greenland, and calling a dead mom in Minnesota a domestic terrorist, he attended some sort of bizarre over-the-top party at his Mar-a-Lago resort where people were dressed as giant dancing dogs.
Now, what I understand is that this was an event for people that could not afford things in life, and I think veterans might have been a part of it. But they, I'm sure some nonprofit was involved in setting up and hosting this.
Stop screwing with me. I know that. No, it is. It's not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, man. And I was just going to say, and like, these people are Satanists, man.
Yeah. I mean, what else can you say? Yeah. Charlie Kirk just got, capped by someone that they're claiming was a furry. And then they go and they host a furry event. I mean, look at this.
It's a furry party. That's what it is. It's a furry party.
Okay, here we go. American Humane Society Hero Dogs Award at Mar-a-Lago. Let's take a look at this. American Dogs Award. American Humane Society Hero Dogs. Is this a nonprofit? Let's take a look. AI mode. The Hero Dogs Award is one of the signature national programs designed to celebrate and honor the contributions of extraordinary dogs. It is a tax-exempt charitable organization headquartered in Washington, D.C., founded in 1877, focusing on animal welfare, safety, and strengthening the human-animal bond. In addition, the Hero Dog Awards manages the No Animals Were Harmed program for film TV. Do you guys think that they give two Fs about animals getting harmed? No, they don't even care about humans getting trafficked. Okay, what makes you think that a 501c3 nonprofit organization about Humane American Dog Association gives any Fs about dogs? The only reason, in my opinion, that this is being done is to find a way to make and take and send and do money through funding of tax exempt organizations. So they're everywhere. They're everywhere, and I'm sick of it. I'm freaking sick of it. Absolutely.
Exactly. I guarantee you probably only 5%, if you're lucky, of the money that company or that organization pulls in actually goes to what they say it does.
Yeah. Can you break down how much money? Let's see real quick, and then we're going to end it. Was distributed to executives in this 501c3. Let's see what it comes up with. It might take a deeper search than this, but for the fiscal year June 30th, 2023, American Humane reported total compensation of $2.6 million for 8 most highly compensated employees, with the president and CEO receiving over $700,000. The organization reported total compensation expenses of $10 million for all 111 staff members. Detailed executive compensation. The following table outlines the compensation for the 8 most highly compensated employees at American Humane fiscal year ended 23 as the reported its IRS Form 990. Robin Ganser, president and CEO, how do you make $702,000 from a non-profit?
That's the thing. Like, that's how you know a nonprofit is a fraudulent nonprofit, in my opinion. It's when you have their employees, their executive staff, not their employees, but their executive staff, like their CEO and stuff, making 6 or 7 figure salaries, then you know they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
It represents the total compensation for the top 8 executives was approximately $2.6 million as of 23, representing nearly 30% of the organization's total payroll expenses. How much did they raise? How much money did this organization raise in donations? Let's take a look. They raised $68.5 million in support. Of that total, approximately $14.9 million came from direct cash contributions and sponsorships. Breakdown of fiscal year 2024. All right. $14.8 million in cash Non-financial assets, another 38 million. Grants, 5 million. Royalties, 3.1 million. Service fees, 3.15 million. Investments, 3.4 million. All right. So they have received 2024, they tripled almost 2.7x, 68.5, 26 million cash heavy focus. I want to know how much money was paid to all employees, percentages from the donations. This AI is pretty good, actually. I never use it, but okay. Based on the most recent financial disclosures of fiscal year June 30th, 2024, American Humane Association spent approximately $10 million on total employee compensation when compared to the $14.86 million raised through direct cash contributions and sponsorships. Total employee compensation. Where did I go? Did I lose it? I was on a good one here too. Where am I? Oh yeah, here we go. Based on that, okay. Total employee compensation is equivalent to 67.6% of those cash donations. So they rate. Think about it. If you're giving, say you gave $14.86 million of your wealth to me for an organization that's a nonprofit, and I took 67.6%, and me and homie split it, and we put it in our pocket, and we gave 32 or 33% of the remaining to whatever cause that we were raising it for. How would that make you feel? It goes all the way to the top. That's the problem. And it's not just one, it's not just TPUSA, it's not just Turning Point, whatever. It's not, it's to me, it's all of them. You think that these people are doing this because they're stupid? No, they found and created a legal way for them to take money from United States tax. The reason why this is important is because when it's tax exempt, who do you think they still have to pay? Like the taxes still have to be accounted for. So that means that we pay for those taxes. Did you agree to pay for all of these taxes on these organizations? How many millions of them are there? So anyways, I'm done. I'm not done with the story. I'm done with this. This is just a disaster.
Yeah.
One example, you know.
Totally.
And then let me show, well, before I'm done, let me show you what else I found. So that lady that allegedly threatened Charlie Kirk.
Well, let's tease that because we're gonna do another live stream probably tomorrow where him and I go over in detail all this, including what I found about her being an ex-sex line worker, and then the frauds of the 990s and stuff.
So I'll tease this, and then I'll show your video, and then we'll bounce. So I created a thread. If you go to my X account, x.com/danksterintel, whatever, you can find me. Who is Lori Cordoza Moore? Receipts time. A TPUSA donor threatened Charlie Kirk with biblical curses just days before his death. God will lift his hand from you. It will be to your peril. So I did what I always do. I pulled her nonprofit 990s. What I found was insane. This lady right here.
Carlson, with his mocking voice and his mocking laughter, they were horrified by what they saw. I had 3 couples reach out to me who had been to the Turning Point USA conference. And this was in Tampa a couple weeks ago. They called me and said they were horrified by what they saw. Horrified. They saw Tucker Carlson get up and act like another crazy person, talking, condemning, mocking voice and his mocking laughter. So Tucker gets up and speaks at this conference in Tampa, TPUSA, and right after him comes Michelle Bachmann. Michelle has 5 minutes to make an argument for why we have to stand with Israel to these young people at TUSA. When she starts talking in that conference about supporting Israel and why America should stand with Israel, the people in the audience start booing her. I spoke with her personally.
So you guys have seen this. I don't want to play too much, but I wanted to show her face because I want to show you Project Constitution, what he found and what we're going to be reporting on next. And I won't read this whole thing, but Lori Cordova, former 1-900 phone sex actress in steamy commercials and alleged 1980s Dallas stripper, plus her nonprofit's shady business, which I have uncovered, and he has too. So check this out.
Are you over 30 and single? You can find love.
Let me turn it up. This is the same lady, bro.
Are you over 30 and single?
In the 80s,
you
90s.
can find love and romance right here on the telephone, on the Romance Hotline. Just call this number, and all you have to do is listen. You'll hear recorded messages from exciting singles over 30 looking for love and romance.
The Romance Hotline, 1-900-909-8000. $2 first minute, 45 cents additional minutes.
Why not call now? All you have to do is listen.
So I went to Israel actually in 2002 because my background is not only television, movies, theater, acting, what have you, but it's also a student of history. So studying the Bible, studying history.
It's also a phone sex operator.
Strike a pose.
I don't want to get hit with monetization. So now you're going to get a full picture soon. You guys want to come out and threaten people? You want to steal money from, in my opinion, steal money from Americans, and then use Christianity as your, or Judeo. This, first of all, Judeo-Christian values is garbage. Okay, it doesn't exist. That is something they're trying to use as propaganda to fool Americans that don't know better. All right, I can promise you that. That's a fact.
Precisely.
So get ready for the next one. It'll be dropping soon. We'll go live soon. We're also going to cut some clips for y'all online. And I'll probably do a deep dive myself, do one of those structured, you know how my videos are. So we'll have to put something out. I've been super busy, so I haven't had a chance to make a full expose on some of these things, but they just keep stacking up. It's almost hard, to pick one, but I've got a few angles here. And let me tell you something. When I go, I bring receipts and I show facts and I show paperwork to back everything. I'm not out here talking about what could be or looking at pictures 1,000 different ways to try to make some guess. No, I'm going to show you the paperwork signed, delivered on my channel, on his channel, because I'm about the truth. So that's it for me. Thanks, guys.
We bring receipts.
Yeah, we bring receipts. So, all right, share this.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Share
Candace.
this. Make sure you share this out. Candace has a live stream scheduled here. She's got a live stream at 5:30 here Eastern time. So in about 22 minutes, going to be fire, man. Make sure you go watch. We'll be watching. She says leaked TP USA audio. So there's more audio coming out. So
I'm going to put the link in the chat so everyone can get it. I'd say go out and just head over there, hang out in the lobby, let them know that you came from Danks and Project Constitution's live stream. We'd appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next one, man. Thank you all so much. Thanks, bro, for being on here with me. And I look forward to doing more. And let's get together after this and file that DOJ.
Absolutely, man.
All right, guys. Cheers. Love you all. Stay
Love
American.
you all.
Stay blessed. Stay praying. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Appreciate you all.
Yep.